India's biggest food leaders, best food philosophies, genius culinary minds converge right here to share their master strokes for success. Welcome to Secret Sauce. I'm Govindraj Ethiraj, and in today's episode, we speak to Oberoi Hotel's executive chef, Joy Bhattacharya. So, let me start with a simple question. What was your most exciting kitchen moment ever?
I would say there are many, from serving to heads of state to presidential visits to presidential movements. But what gives me all-time high is, I always wanted to be, as you grow within the profession, within the trade, saucier is a position which handles is the most critical position of a kitchen. You would say, across the world, a very good saucier, I think, who has put in years and hours together of work, I think, can gauge the doneness of a meat by looking at it. So, I was at it. I wanted to master this art. And finally, there were mistakes. There were at times when I got it right. But in the day, I could, do this with probably 99% perfection. That's the day I got a real high in my career. That I can look at a piece of meat and say which stage it is cooked to.
Okay, so when was this?
I would say that was somewhere close to 1996.
So that's a long time. I mean, we're talking about more than 20 years.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So these things also tend to happen early in life. I mean, I guess that's when your learning is at its fastest or your absorption is at its peak.
Yeah, I would say that's true. But first of all, you need to have the right eye for detail, which I think is very important in this industry and being in a chef of a trade. The more fingers you burn, the faster you get it, I think.
So let me ask you mentioned heads of state, and I know you've served President Bill Clinton when he was president and he visited Mumbai.
Right.
Why is it that they, it's not like heads of state eat any differently from the rest. So why is everyone so stressed then? Is it because it's a head of state and therefore something could go wrong? Or are they really expecting something much more in terms of culinary performance?
I would say, the best way to look at it is, there's a lot of aura about their visit. There's a lot of pre-preparation, like any other guest, if you go to see, unlike any other guest. And in the chef's life, that moment and that evening is the moment of truth when he actually tastes his food or eats his food, So we all look forward to it. But believe me, back in the kitchen, when we are actually cooking the food, it's just like any dish that we're taking out of the kitchen.
Good.
So, as long as you maintain that time mind frame, because I've seen, wherever you try to be overcautious or try to do some things differently, in a stress situation, that doesn't work most of the time.
So if you're a head of state, you should know that it's just another day, maybe with some additional stress around the system. So let me ask you, chef, when was the first time you entered a kitchen?
First time when I entered the kitchen was probably when I was in standard 6.
So what, 10 years old?
Yeah, 10 years old, because I lost my father in a car accident. So we were all traveling together, and my mother actually, after the accident, we realized that she had 22 fractures. She was probably 3 months on the hospital bed. So we lost him in the course of the accident, and my mother had to step out of the house to work, to fend for our living. And she started working as a data entry operator in the systems department in Tata Steel
in Jamshedpur. And that's where you grew up.
Yeah, and obviously my grandmother moved in to stay with us because there need to be someone at home to take care of us. So there were times when my grandmother was not there. She used to come back from work. She used to do a 6 to 2 shift or maybe a 2 to 9, depending on the shift timing. She used to come back and cook for us. So, it just so naturally came to us. I started, helping her out by maybe prepping a few things before she came in. Maybe started off with just steaming the rice or putting the...
So do you remember the exact first day? I mean, was it because of a need like this that you walked into the kitchen? Was it something that attracted you?
I don't know whether it came out of need or the attraction or the love for my mother, or I just wanted to help out. But I think there was some instinct which actually drew me to the kitchens and made me do certain things which helped her when she, so probably the lentil was half cooked when she was in, she would just do the tempering and the rice would have been half ready, And I graduated myself to probably, make the mango chutney sometimes, or so much so that, you know, my sister, my elder brother, who is 5 years elder to me, and a sister who was 2 years younger to me, they started hounding me in her absence to do different things for them, you know, which I may not have had a clue.
So
also.
how was that viewed? You know, I mean, it's not very common in India for boys or young boys to walk into a kitchen and start cutting or cooking or helping or prepping, as you said. How was that viewed in the beginning by your sister and your brother, or for that matter, your mother?
You know, there was no inkling that, you know, probably I would join this industry to take that forward at that point of time. Because in a place like Jamshedpur, I think this industry was also very unheard of at that point of time. But I think probably, you know, I had that hidden passion which is yet to be tapped at that point of time. So which actually...
So you said you started cooking more and more things.
Yeah.
And then people realized that, that you have a bent for this. I mean, you're not just straying into the kitchen.
Actually, whatever came out was edible, so probably they thought that I had a bent.
But you were
for
still around 10, 12 years old at that time?
Actually.
Okay. Was there a point then when either your mother or your family realized that maybe you've got something that is a little more organized, structured, and it's more than just a passion which is, you know, a casual passion?
I would say, you know, at that point of time, I think it went off, it was taken probably as a casual passion. But, and for that matter, even when I did my graduation and wanted to appear for this entrance exam for hotel management, I always wanted to join service. And in fact, after my industrial training, my...
so you did your graduation first after 12th standard, and then you did your hotel management, right?
We were the first batch to be associated with the International Labour Organization, which was ILO, so 87 to 90 batch. So the curriculum, part of the curriculum demanded that, you know, we do a 24 weeks industry exposure. More so over to actually, you know, gauge at that point of time where your interest lies, you know, which department your interest lies. And I have had batchmates, I have had roommates who were interested in kitchen or front office, changed their thought process after the industrial training. You know, no, this is not my cup of tea, I would probably go and opt for something else. And, you know, the way I look at life was, you know, I don't know, I'm a little perfectionist. You know? Whatever I want to do, I don't want to do it without complaints. And wherever I feel, you know, I want to associate my name with, my endeavor is most of the time that, you know, no fingers are pointed at that, the content of the job that I have done. And I, in fact, opted to join the service as a management trainee. You know, then I took it up, and there you see me here, I'm in the kitchen.
So, in getting it, I mean, so you said you did a graduation, and then you wanted to shift to hotel management. How was that desire received by your family, by your mother? And you did say that, you know, your father passed away. I'm assuming that must have put more strain on everything.
Yeah, actually, but I think, you know, my mother has been always a firm believer, you know. I would say, you know, she doesn't force her opinion. She has never forced her opinion on it. As long as she thinks that, you know, it's a career choice which he's taking out of interest, let him try it out.
But you did also want to explore medicine, but you also had an injury, and I understand.
I wanted to be a fighter pilot, you know, where, you know, after the first rung of the NDA, I actually, there's a muscle tear, the tendon, and that disqualified me in the medical rounds, you know. So that was, you know, an unfortunate thing to have happen.
And most of your friends or your classmates after graduation would have actually gone on to jobs at that time, I would imagine.
Jobs or
further studies.
Right, further studies in different streams. You
know? But you were doing a switch. You were saying that, okay, what did you do? What graduation was that?
BCom, yeah.
So you were effectively saying that this BCom is of no use to me. What I want to really do is to actually go and do a 3 years of hotel management.
So it was my actually local guardian, my aunt, whose son was a chef at the Taj Group of Hotel at that point of time. He was running Tanjore. So she was a backbone at that point of time, supporting me through and through. That though my mother was not there, but she was there standing like a rock behind my back, you know, that no, carrier, you may be feeling low, you may be feeling, you know, this may not be your cup of tea, but, you know, this is the results. And she was showing the results in her son, you know, who was already an outlet chef, and probably he was started to go to Bombay Brasserie and St. James Court in London at that point of time. You know.
So where is he today?
Actually, he went to St. James Court as the executive chef. Then he was the chef of the Bombay Brasserie. He started 2 very successful restaurants in London, the Circles, and then followed by Dalchini. Now he passed away a few years back.
Okay, sorry to hear that.
His restaurants have been run by his wife now, Veronica. She is still running the restaurants in Wimbledon.
Right. So tell me about your first job and what were the first trials by fire?
My intention, my motive with which I used to enter the kitchen was to probably, I had this zeal and fire within that I need to replace these guys. So I worked with that zeal in mind. There is nothing different in me than the guys who are working there. They may be having a few years more of experience, maybe a plenty of number of hours of more at hand work, but definitely you can achieve that by practice.
So when did you receive your first knock?
I would say initial first years, it's been always hit and trial. There have been days when I have messed up recipes. There have been days when I have actually spoiled dishes. But I think, the most important part of it, is how soon you can, brush it off and bounce back to normal.
But did you ever feel, for instance, that have I chosen the right career?
So I was probably the first guy to be posted at a fine dining restaurant like Zodiac Grill. So there were days when there was days when we go complaint free, and I used to be very happy at the end of the day. And I don't know why, because maybe this is to bog me down at times, and I have had discussions with my chefs at that point of time also, whenever there is to be one complaint, could be because of the doneness of the steak or maybe the timing of the order. Not that it is intentional, but sometimes, judgment, some don't cook the same way than the other. Obviously that counts for a year of experience to master each and every bit of it, But I used to be really bogged down when there used to be a single complaint. Anyways, I used to feel bad, but then I always used to relate it that, this is going to work against me and my performance. So that used to build a lot of internal pressure within. But I've learned to come over it. Now suddenly when you are managing a large ship like this, there are not that everything you can put your hands in. You have to trust people, the team spirit, you have to live with the team, and how well you train the team and how well you are within them. I think that makes all the difference now at this point of time. And I feel, leading them by example makes a lot of difference.
Right. So what are the kind of mistakes that you've made from which you've learned?
There could be, judgment levels of cooking the quantity of food. There could be mistakes. I've done mistakes in wrongly indenting the right quantity. Sometimes you feel, there are probably X number of dishes on the menu. Y quantity of each would suffice. So I would say, in a package, if you go to see experience as well as, situationally what you require to understand your clientele and the guest is equally important.
So what's the worst? Okay, so what's the worst mistake that you've made? One of those things which one is vow to yourself that you'll never do it again, but also tell people who work with you that, hey, this is something that I've learned from and you should not make this mistake.
Sometimes you tend to get overconfident with different things. It could be a very simple recipe with a small little tweak, but you may have done a similar dish maybe n number of times. But this recipe probably has the same base, but may have a little few add-ons which change the character of the dish totally. This was during an Aboriginal Australian food festival with Scott Webster, I remember. So we had to do green apple foam without seeing the recipe once. I thought, it was cake job, and we started off with it. And this was a little tricky, so we kept it for the last bit. And when we did it, it was just not forming. We just could not get the quenelle out. And ultimately, because of this overconfidence and just ignorance of a few critical aspects of the recipe which was not factored in, we had to actually stall the product on the first day of the festival for probably an hour or so before it was rectified and put in shape back again. So, I think taking things for granted, and even for things which are used daily in our kitchen lives, I think each and everything that we do needs their due importance and due credit all the time.
And do you have like a personal process approach to these things? I mean, that you have a certain way of ensuring that these things don't happen?
Actually, mostly when you do menus, or when we do the menu engineering, we actually segregate the bases. But mostly maximum complaints happen when the base is neglected. When there is a problem with the base product, then you can try out any number of multiple permutations and combinations. You would not get the right product the final product if you go to see.
It's an interesting point. So one of your challenges, I'm sure, on an ongoing basis is to be creative. It's
Right.
not just the operations or the indenting or getting the logistics right, but it's also being creative when you're either designing a new menu or even an entire new restaurant or an offering. What are the kind of creative forces that you bring to bear when you are faced with a project like that?
Constantly work with your supplier set. You also have to encourage them to different types of produce on the platform. It's very important to see what's happening all around. So knowledge of your competition is very important. You may think that you are the best, but if you keep on harping and thinking about that you are the best, you'll very soon see someone else taking over. And so it's in sports also. If you are competing for a 100 meters race, you are probably competing with one thing in mind, that you want to win it. But it's most difficult for the person who has won the title last year to maintain that.
Yes.
So if I have won the 100 meters race last year, I am more under pressure to maintain that position all the time, because there are so many who are running after me, to supersede me. So it becomes very important to know what's in the market, what's competing against you.
And what your consumers or your audiences are consuming, because they travel and they...
And there are so many dishes which have happened or occurred on the menus by just talking to your guests across the tables in the restaurants. You may not be traveling to the remote places which they have traveled, so it's the best to take the best out of them and maybe use it somewhere or the other.
Well, what about working? You work with a lot of young people. So how do you maintain the balance in terms of imparting knowledge, extracting work, sharing experiences, building a sort of team that is cohesive and create something that's truly magical? I'm assuming that's what everyone aspires to.
The youngsters have a totally different thought process of their mind. So I actually experience a blend, a very mature blend, I would say, of maybe 30-35% of my team who are seasoned and who actually form the main pillars of the critical processes of the kitchen, and the remaining 65 but person who are the young team. But I know for a matter of fact, the very soon it's going to change. Where 65 is going to become 35, and gradually you will come to 90, 100. They are all brand new. So with keeping that in mind, I think we have to invest more and more time in training. Maybe incorporate things in the menu which has got more structured basis than depending on last minute expertise for their finishing. Reducing the number of steps so that you can give a large variety. At the time, control your processes within. So we need to have as and when you're dealing with young team, who, though they are vibrant, full of energy, but at the same time, I feel the level of passion going down, across all the hotels. So that's how.
Is it in the hotels because maybe chefs want to become entrepreneurs and independent early?
But end of the day, if you go to see, I just tell the young kids also that the first 5 years are the years that you work for yourself. That's the time when you sharpen the saw and hone your own skills. But I don't see that being followed very strictly, or probably if I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to run my own restaurant, let me sharpen my saw and at least, ensure that, what I deliver in my restaurant is the pristine best. You can't bank on someone to do the job for you and expect quality if you don't know what quality is all about.
Right. So let me ask you, as we run to the end of our conversation, what are the 2 or 3 things that you saw when you first joined this profession that are still there or values? Let's talk about values, and what are not when you look back.
Consistent quality can only give us return customers. Because
so that's a value for you. I mean that's your secret sauce, or one of your secret sauces.
Yeah, but then definitely you see the levels of passion dwindling, and today's young kid does not want to work so hard. They want to achieve everything at a very young age. Probably.
And you were not like that, you feel?
Yeah, I'm shocked. The good you brought this topic up. I'm shocked to see these days. We used to boast the number of knives we used to have in the kitchens. You would be shocked to see none of the young kids, probably they'll have 2-3 different models of cell phones to boast around.
But not knives.
But not knives. So that is where we are reaching, and that's how There's so many things, the newer hotels, we still have full-fledged infrastructure to support all our business need. But then as the days go, that's how where the ready-made products are coming in.
Right. So let me ask the same question differently then. So if for a young aspiring chef who's watching this, what would be your advice?
I would say, there is no compromise for hard work and passion if you want to be in the kitchens.
Okay, so I think that's fairly straightforward. Last question, and one without which I cannot leave. Your favorite grandmother's recipe, or before that, what did you eat last night and where did you cook it?
Last night I was at work and I had a very light dinner. It was just a salad plus 2, I think, chicken dumplings, which is the dim sum.
Okay, that was in the hotel itself.
That was in the hotel. And my mom's favorite, grandmother's favorite recipe, I think that's bhekti paturi, which is the fillets of Kolkata bhekti, the seawater fish which moves inwards into fresh waters. So that's marinated with mustard, onion paste and a little bit of coconut, and then it's wrapped in banana leaf and steamed. So you can relish it with steamed rice or just like that.
Right. Chef, hope to enjoy that someday with you. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.